this one. So we'll be talking about writing your research paper proper. And obviously, research writing is all about writing a story. And it's the story of your research idea and how your research has been conducted, what you found, that is, of course, your results, and discussing about how your findings do advance current knowledge or advance science at the time you were writing your research manuscript. And so research papers, the basic structure, of course, is the IMRAD structure, which simply stands for I for introduction, M for methods or material and methods, R for results, and the A there was just to give it a good sense, and then D is for discussion. So that's the basic structure for the original research paper writing. You remember at the start of this, we talked about the different types of research papers and research articles. And for didactic reasons, we divided these different types into 3 main categories, okay? So, but we said that the original research format, which is a full report, is what most journals do publish, and that's what we are talking about, that the basic structure, the basic anatomy of this research manuscript is the IMRAD format, which is introduction, methods, results, and discussion. And so there are other components to a research paper. Of course, we've talked about the title. You need a title. And that title page or the admin section of your paper would usually include the title of your manuscript, the authors and all co-authors, including their affiliations, and can include also, or should include, the corresponding author and the address of the corresponding author. And at times they would ask for a word count. Some journals will ask for a word count. So they want to see upfront the total number of words. That's excluding your tables and your figures. They want to see the total number of words. In the case of a full report, you remember most journals would ask you for anything around 4,000 to 5,000 words. And after your title, then we go to your abstract, which is a small abridged version showing a complete, clear, and concise story, usually between 250 to 300 words. And that would include your background, aims, methods, results, and conclusion. If it is a structured abstract, and certain journals, depending, would ask for an unstructured abstract, which is just a prose writing of everything around your background, aims, methods, and results, and conclusion. And after then, I is your introduction, which this section actually explains why you perform the research, the study in the first place. What is the current knowledge, and what is the aim of your research? And after I, of course, it's your methods. We've talked long and large about your methods. It tells us the different experiments that you've conducted and the justification for these experiments. The results, obviously, this section would summarize your main findings, probably based on your question, based on the objectives that you set out to answer in the first place, which usually should be captured in your introduction. And your discussion explains your results in the context of available literature, in the context of current literature, your limitations, the strengths probably of your methods, and also the implications of your findings for maybe clinical practice or for policy if it's a public health paper. And then conclusion. Somebody asks, what do I put in my conclusion? I would usually say, for me, in your conclusion, I would want to see the main message of your paper. And remember, I said your message can be hidden in your title. The conclusion of your abstract should carry your message. The questioning of your main message should be in your introduction. Your main message should come out in your results section and in your display items. The very first paragraph of your discussion, I should be able to see your message. And in your conclusion, again, your message. So at the end, you saturate and you kill your reader with your message. so that at the end of it all, the reader, the editor, the reviewer goes home knowing what the message of this paper is. And if possible, one paper, one message. It's true, you can have one big message and you can have many other 2 or 3 subsidiary messages. One paper, one big message. And at the end of it all, we have your references. Your introduction is answering the following question. What is the problem? What is already known about the topic? Why is it important? What is the question that I am asking myself? That is what your introduction is actually asking. And you can write that in 1, 2, 3 paragraphs maximum. What do we know about the topic? Or what we don't know? So that's where Brian was talking about the gap. Where is the gap in knowledge? And then why is it important and what is the question? And usually that goes with your aims and your objectives as well. So that's, you've written your introduction in 3 paragraphs. And each paragraph should carry about, you're using a Word document, you're writing in Calibri or Times New Roman, you're writing in 11 or 12. So usually a paragraph should have approximately anything between 8 to a maximum of 10 lines, okay? It's not, you're not conducting a literature review. You should really summarize your ideas and write directly and concise. Reviewers don't have time to be reading a prose of great data which you have copied from textbooks, okay? Summarize ideas and express those ideas in a succinct and direct and concise manner when writing your introduction. Your method is answering the question, how do we examine the problem? How did we go about our analysis? Should be usually written in the past tense. And in your methods, a good method section will explain the study clearly enough that anyone else should be able to repeat that study. So therefore, we would want to see your study design, your study setting and population, your sample size calculations, the outcome measures, the statistical analysis, and how you've used statistics to try to answer the questions that you set out to answer in the first place, and of course, ethical considerations. Your results is basically, what did we find? In your first paragraph for pragmatism, I would want to see, here you talk about your participant flow diagram. I want to see the baseline characteristics. And then paragraph 2 in your results section would be the display items, you're reporting on the main findings, for example, that message that you're trying to type out. And then you are referencing us back to a table or referencing us back to a figure. And then if there are other objectives or other lesser findings, then we want to see in subsequent paragraphs in your results section. After your results section is now your discussion. You start your discussion. Your discussion is all about what did we find? And as I said, bring forward your main message. So summarize your first paragraph. You're summarizing your main findings. You can start, we set out to, the objective of this paper was to, and we found that the main message comes in so that you're driving home your main message at each point in time. So paragraph 1 should tie with your main message. And usually paragraph 2, and some people say 2 and 3, you're trying to compare or contrast based on what exists in the literature. As I said, you're not writing textbook literature where lots of gray matter, lots of gray data. No, you are comparing and contrast based on what you found. Some people I would see usually go write a lot of things that are not even associated or complementary to what they are trying to talk about. Limit to what your data is showing, write around it, compare and contrast with current literature. Some people would talk about straightly limitations up front in paragraph 2. And while talking about limitations, they would not just end by showing limitations, but they would go directly to talk about how they've tried to limit the limitations, either by one statistical method or the other, or the strength of the paper as well in paragraph 2. So it depends, practices vary. So, but these are the main things that should come out. We would want to see what are the implications. Some people, once they compare and contrast main research findings and they move from one thing to the other, once they are comparing and contrasting, they end that particular paragraph with an implication for public health practice, or implication for policy, or implication for general public, implication for science. So it depends on practices. So, but these things should come out. I've mentioned limitation. And after your discussion is your conclusion. And your conclusion, you should come back and hit on the main message of the paper. You don't need to write another big paragraph in your conclusion. Just come back, hit on your main message again, and it drives home smoothly the main message of your paper. So remember, we talked, Brian tried answering this question a bit. So after knowing everything we have discussed so far today, this is one of the main slides you should go home with. Set out your research writing agenda, analyze your data, start by preparing your display items, make dummy tables, make figures, work on your display items, work with your supervisors, with your collaborators, with your co-authors, until you guys agree that these are the display items that we need for this paper. This is our main display item that transmit our main message. So start by working on your display items first. Write your display items first. Write your show us your tables first. Show us your figures first. Show us your participant flow diagram first. That is corrected first. Everybody agree on those display items. Then you go forward to write your methods, you write your results, you write your discussion and your conclusion. And then you see that it will shape the way you write your introduction. Abstract now will become a given. Your title, now you know your message, you would easily coin a title. You add your keywords, you put the acknowledgements where you acknowledge the different contributions of the different co-authors. Of course, as you write, you're already referencing. That is why it's important to use the reference manager. So I think this is the order in which you should write, and you should be able to transform your thesis document to a publishable paper, and don't just copy and paste from your thesis document to a paper. So any question? Thank you very much. Yes, Dr. Gatti.
Okay, I just had one question. When you say, anyway, we know that a research paper could carry several messages and objectives. Will it be possible or legal to split those that message and objectives into two studies and publish them differently? Is that allowed?
To tell you the truth, that is a very good question. I think if you've got a large study where you can actually write two papers without repetition in terms of presentation of data, then that's fine. Two big objectives that can be written, that can formulate two different papers, that's fine. If not, then there's usually one big question, right? One big objective, and then the other one is just, secondary, it's just attached to it. So you write your paper around that big objective, so that big finding, that big research question, and then the other one now just come in as a subsidiary. Really, that would be the best way to do it. If in case you will not be plagiarizing yourself in the first paper, if you will not be repeating tables, repeating, things, but if the two objectives can be really split, and then you can write one paper on one, another paper on the other, and these papers will not be identical. You're looking at one particular relationship, codified strong relationship in one paper, and you're looking at another association in another paper, then that's fine. That has given you 2 papers. Now, what we should avoid is what in scientific writing we call salami slicing, where from a particular research project, you want to slice it in such a way that you come out maybe with 4 or 5 papers. And so you water down the quality of the individual papers. So that's called salami slicing. That's not good practice. So put things together, come out with 1 big message, if you can write 1 big full paper. If not, you can divide, as I've said, if they are not very related, if there will not be any repetition, you can write 2 short reports. Remember, I talked about short reports, 1,500 to 2,000 words. And that gives you 2 publications from 1 very good research project.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor.
I don't know if anyone has anything to add with regards to that. Really, if not, I've added some, I've added the resources and the presentations in the chat section, which you can download and have. And really, I really hope this session has been of help to you. This was the very first, gross section. Subsequently, we are going to go in detail in some of the things we've discussed today to help young researchers build. But I guess with this, you can really start your writing project. Get in touch with me if you need help in one way or the other. And I guess I may be able to lead you to maybe Joseph or to Brian or to others that I know who can help you depending on the domain of science you're working in. And I guess they should be able to help you in getting your paper to a reasonably publishable format, depending on the quality of your data, depending on the quality of and the robustness of the methods that you've used already. We don't advocate tricking your data, manipulating your data. We are going to use what you have and try to come up with something that is publishable. And even if it's in a low impact journal, as you're a young researcher, it's good to get your name out there. If it can be something which is indexed in PubMed, that's fine. You remember we talked about knowledge contribution, knowledge dissemination, scientific credibility, and professional credibility. So that starts by you, putting your work out there. So don't worry about impact factor when you're starting off. As you grow and do good science, so obviously I'm sure you should be able to come to the point where you're publishing in science, like Brian here, or maybe in Lancet or in JAMA, in some of the other New England journals and Nature. Who knows what the future has for us. So thank you very, very much. I've shared some of the resources. As I said, I don't know if anyone has any final comments.